Hi there, thank you so much for clicking the thumbnail and being interested in my work. In this video I share with you my techniques and tips on how I painted this sunflower. In part 2 I'll be finishing off the head of the flower and the rest of the petals, and then moving on to the leaves and the stem and finishing the background. So be sure to watch it right through till the end, because here and there I'll be slowing things down in real time so you can take a closer look. So let's dive in and take a look. Here's a selection of pencils I used for the actual petals, just recapping on last video, which were part 1. I did an underdrawing first, well outline, then the underdrawing, and then now I'm putting the rich colours on. These are the colours I'm glazing over those yellows. So you can see how I've done it here. Now this is a Caran dash lemon yellow I'm putting in first, and it's going over the underdrawing, which are more chalkier pencils I've used, more like Conte Pastel and CarbOthello. I mean, if you wanted to recap on part 1, you could always go and look at that and then come back to this. But it's just going to go through it with you again, how I did the petals with the rich colours. So I'm using those sort of that really intense Caran dash colour first, the lemon yellow, and then I'm using a warm yellow to mix in with it. And what I'm just using these doing these three petals here just to show you how I did it. So just filling in all the bright areas first, and just getting the actual, it's like a blocking stage when you first do the rich stage, because it's more involved in trying to get the value more correct and the chroma. So that's what the actual rich colour stages, and then I start to put the details in, which I'll show you that later in the video. To create a natural shadow of yellow, you have to think about which colour is the complementary of yellow, which is purple. So what I'm doing is using red and blue together to create different subtle purples. Some are more red purple, some are more blue purple, so I'm doing that as well. In places I'm putting white down first, then glazing over then with the yellow. Sometimes that works to create a bit more of a sort of glistening look, because the white shines through the colour then. I mean, some areas are like a warmer shadow, so that's where I'm using the warm red, which is the vermilion, and then for the colder areas I'm using the purple red, which is more like an Elysium crimson colour. So I'm mixing those two up as well, just to try and get the right feel. Sometimes I feel I have to mix the warm red and the cold red together to get the subtlety I need as well. Then you just mix a little bit of blue with it to create different purples. I mean, some are more greenier purple, which is and some are more of a redder purple. So you have to sort of really look at the colour. So what I'm doing to get the values, I'm squinting my eyes, and to get the colour I'm widening them. So I'm going from one to the other. So I'm squinting for values, opening wide for colour, and it really does the trick. Helps you to see more clearly. And I mentioned this in a lot of my videos. The state of mind I'm in is total relaxation. I let go of the mind, open the heart, and just sense and melt into the feeling of the flower. Feel the energy around the flower as well, the space, and try and interpret that, because the more you observe, the more this feeling will go through you and just out your hands, it'll flow through you. So it's a case of connecting to these elements and having a sense of space, because in shadows it's not just a darker colour, there's all sorts of wonderful energy in shadows. And if you can create that by just relaxing the mind, just open your heart and just let go and just let it happen, there's a feeling that the painting paints itself. All you're doing is just observing. So your key thing really is not to think of opening your heart, it's more of a feeling, it's going beyond thought. If you're enjoying this video, why not subscribe? It's absolutely free, and then you're sure not to miss any of my future videos. Another thing I do as well is keep a really open vision of it, so I'm looking at the whole thing, so I'm comparing all the time one shade against the other. So what you see on one petal, if it's a similar colour, I try and make it that similar colour so it keeps a balance throughout the painting then. Just slowing it right down to real time now so you can take a closer look. So it's a case of just feeling your way, sensing and just melting into the actual image, and try and get that sort of freshness to the shadows as well. It's just a matter of varying your stroke a little bit, and for the really bright, vibrant areas I'm using this Rembrandt stick, it's lemon yellow. These sticks are really rich in pigment, so they really do stand out. So what I'm doing is sensing where these little highlights need to go, so I'm just going in various places, again trying to keep the same tone throughout. And you know, if you find there's one area that's got a certain zinginess to it, is to try and get that same feeling in all the other areas that has got a similar feel to it. Right, here's the selection of pencils I used for the flower head in part 1, so it's a chance to see it again, how I did that. So I've just got to finish that off. Now it's very complex in the pattern of this. Now what I tend to do is put suggestions down. If you just see it as colour, light and shade, and don't see it as details, and just put what you see. Just the shadows, the colours, the richness, just put down what you see. It appears detailed when you look at it from afar because the eye makes adjustments, it fills in the gaps. So just enjoy just creating the actual feel of it. Just slowing it down now so you can take a closer look. So I'm using purple and red to create that darkness I'm looking for. Just like to take this opportunity to thank all my Patreons for the wonderful support every month. I really appreciate it. It does make a massive difference. If you're considering joining me on Patreon and would like the benefit of longer, slower and more in-depth videos, please check the link in the description below so you can find out more details. All I can say with this is just to keep having a go really, and just try and find the darkness and compare with the other areas, making it the same sort of tone, and then just try and find the temperature that you're looking for and use the pencil which is the best suited. I mean, what I'm doing here is actually twisting the pencil so I get more pigment to stick onto the pastel mat, because the grain of the pastel mat sort of grabs the pigment, and then I just glaze over the top. And now I'm putting lemon yellow over that warm yellow, so you got to keep mixing it until you get that shade. That's all I can suggest really, is just keep playing until it becomes what you're feeling. Here I'm just opening up and then just checking everywhere, just making sure that the balance of the light and the balance of the temperature is correct. So I'm warming up the red here and there. Also I'm putting lemon yellow in rather than the warm yellow in places. So it's a case of getting the balance of the temperature by just sort of feeling it. Like I mentioned before, to get the values, you actually squint your eyes, and to find the colour, you open your eyes. Just really open your heart and then just melt into it and just feel the atmosphere, feel that mystery in the shadows as well, and try and feel that and let that flow through you. Now moving on to the leaves, here's a selection of pencils I use for that. So this is an underpainting, just getting a rough idea of the shapes, just taking my time Still getting a feeling for it as well, even though it's just an underdrawing or underpainting. I'm still feeling and sensing the energy of the leaves and the actual space around it, and just feeling the colour as well, so trying to feel the temperature of the colour and seeing what's needed. So I'm using like a olive green with lemon yellow to create that sort of richness. Just slowing it down now to real time so you can see how I did the underdrawing. So I'm putting the white in first, so I'm putting more pressure on where it's lighter, less pressure where it's more mid-tones, and just getting a basic idea of where the shadows are and the highlights, and just basically just getting a feel for it. What you're doing is actually altering the outline you've done by trying to make a little bit of form, so you know you're moving things about. On top of that white, I'm glazing with olive green and lemon yellow. This is just a foundation, it's just a chalkier pencils I'm applying, which helps them with the glide when you start putting the rich colours on, which is from the Caran d'Ache, because the Caran d'Ache pencils tend to stick to the actual Pastelmat grey board. But putting these chalkier pencils on first, the pencils then, the Caran d'Ache pencils, tend to sort of glide better and mix better, because these colours mix in with what you're going to put on later. So that's what I've found with this technique. If I start using the chalkier pencils first with the underdrawings, it just makes life so much easier then when you start putting the richer colours on. If you're enjoying this video, why not give it a like and share it with your friends? It would mean so much to me, as this will help the channel to grow. Here's the pencils I'll be using for the sky, just to start putting some detail in there now and to make it look like fresh air and feel like it's actually outside and there's space around it. So this is how I achieve that. Slowing it down to real time now again so you can see what I'm up to here. Using the Caran d'Ache white, it's the actual Chinese white, and then just glazing with a bit of cold red there to make nice purples, because that's ultramarine and it's like an Elysium crimson red, which is a purpley red. Really makes nice purples when you mix it with ultramarine, and so that's what I'm doing around the clouds. And then a little tip as well is to glaze a little bit of lemon yellow in the white of the cloud as well, and that will create more of a atmosphere with it. And what you see me use here is a cold blue with a warm blue. So because it's more, the sky is actually more like turquoisey as it goes down towards the horizon, and it goes more ultramarine as it goes higher. But in this part of the sky here, it's a mixture of the two, going up to like an ultramarine colour I've created. So I've changed it to what the actual reference image is like, so to what I know what sky feels like more. So it's just playing about with it and seeing how it feels, and trying to get that sort of feeling of freshness with it and space. For the richer colours and details of the leaves, I'm using these pencils here, but I will add to this as I go along. So it's just a case of playing about really and trying things out. So what I'm doing here is drawing out where the veins are to start with. I tend to like to do that just to give them an idea of where things will go, and I can work around it. You might think, well, why don't you put that over at the end? But it's just the way I like to work. It's just mapping everything out so I know what I'm doing. I can always change these things around anyway later. It just gives me an idea of where to start. What I always like to do as well is to focus on one little section and just play about and see what needs to be done before I move on to the rest of it. So on this little bit of the edge of the leaf there, I decided just to have a play and try different things, and just to see what might work and what don't work. And so you're just experimenting. And so what I'm doing here is using a light green from the CarbOthello range, and then going over them with a darker green, just glazing with it and mixing with it, and then trying to get that sort of value right, and also the chroma, that shimmering look feel to it. And I like the light shining through the leaf as well, so I'm getting that sort of feeling. So I'm trying to find out what needs to be done to make that work. So I'm trying all different things. Now I'm conscious how long this video is becoming now, so I'm going to have to speed this up a little. Now, just to remind you that if you wanted to see these sort of things longer, slower and more in depth, please check out my Patreon. This flower will be on there at some point, and you'll be able to see every mark I make, every pencil stroke from beginning to end. This stage is all about getting the value and the chroma more correct, and then the details go on the last stage. So it's like a block in, but I'm just putting more richer colours on and trying to get that chroma and the shadow. So I'm focusing on just spreading my awareness and getting a balance of where these shades should be, and then once I'm happy with that, then I'll start going with the details then. Here's a little real time just to show you how I put the pollen on there, because there's like little pieces of pollen that's fell off the flower, and so what I'm doing is just dotting it here and there. You don't have to go mad and put the detail exactly what the reference image is. It's just getting the feel of what needs to be done. So what I did is got that yellow in first, and then I worked around it with a little bit of shade here and there and sculptured it. But first of all, I just sort of dotted it. This was a warm yellow from the Caran dash, and just sort of just feel my way through and just place it here and there. Then I used the olive green, and then I'm moving the pencils in all different directions to sort of get that texture of the leaf. And it's just olive green over the colours I've put underneath. And then what I'll do then is I'll glaze over this as well to subtle it up even more so later. But it's a case of just keep playing until it becomes what you're looking for. There's no set rule on how to do it. It's just a matter of just having a play and see what works, and just relax and just open up and just enjoy playing. Really, it's all fun, so don't take it too serious, because if you start to take it serious, you're going to get uptight and all stressed out with it, because there's quite a lot of detail there. So don't see it as detail, just see it as texture and interest, really, and just be interested in how it feels rather than what it looks like. Now, to get that emerald green feel into it, like it's a jewel, like a light shining through it, it's all a case of getting the value right, and it's light against dark. And also I'm using lemon yellow, then glazing over with this blue, so that lemon yellow is shining through the blue, which is making a zingy sort of green. It's hard to explain. It's when you do it, you'll see it happening, and then you'll understand what I'm meaning. Now, once all the elements in, I start to go around and look at the whole image and feel what needs to be done. So some areas will need to be softer, some will need to be sharper. So this is edges, so I'm dealing with the edges and also getting the values right, softening some areas, and also looking at the colours and making sure they all balance up. Hope you've enjoyed part 2. Now be sure to watch part 1 if you haven't seen that already. It's in my channel. So here's the finished painting at the correct angle rather than being in perspective on the easel. And if you wanted to see more of my work, here's some links that you might be interested in. Take care and thank you for watching.